So I did a video a while back, I'll put a link in the description, where I bought a Gibson Custom Shop Les Paul and I didn't love it. And the question became, well, what about Gibson's least expensive guitar? So I went and looked, and the least expensive guitar today that you can buy new from Gibson is the Gibson Modern Lite Edition. Now keep in mind, the new studios came out and they're only $100 more, but this is still the least expensive one. So in today's video, we're gonna do a deep dive on the Gibson Modern Lite. First thing I want to say is that I like that it comes with the deluxe Gibson gig bag. This is one of the nicest gig bags they've ever included with the guitars. Funny story on this guitar. I picked this guitar because I thought it was cool. What made me laugh was when I was ringing it up, when I was purchasing it, there's an old guy who said, that's going to make a little girl really happy because it's pink. It can make a dude happy. This is a Gibson Modern Lite that is nothing modern about it, but Lite, L-I-T-E, refers to how thin it is. It's thin, not as thin, well, about as thin as an SG, but it's got a little bit of an arch to the top. Let's get into the geeky stuff so we can find out more about this guitar. So first things first, what you have is a mahogany body. And because they painted, I can't tell. It looks like one piece. I don't see any seam lines. There's no grain fill or anything, so you're looking at the grain. You have a one-piece mahogany neck. Now, when we say one piece, keep in mind, we're also going to say there's wings on the headstock, because there are. So the neck itself is one piece, and then they glue on two wings on each side of the headstock. And it does have a rosewood fretboard. There is no maple cap on this, and this is nitrocellulose satin finish paint, which with any playing goes glossy. So you're going to get glossy spots on it. And the pickups that come with this guitar are the 498T and the 490R that are Gibson USA made wound pickups, and three-way switch with a volume, tone, no push pulls, and more importantly, no modern features whatsoever. You have a black truss rod cover. Something interesting, the headstock, if you haven't noticed, is color matched to the body, which is something you usually don't see on Gibsons. And then the logos are not inlaid. This is just a decal. It looks really good. I actually like it. I think it looks really good. I think this color looks fantastic, but they do have other colors. This one is rose gold satin, but they also have gold mist satin, Inverness green satin, TV wheat satin, and cardinal red satin. I don't know if you need to say the satin every time, but it's a satin finish. Also, if I didn't mention it before, this guitar is streeting at $1,499 as the time of filming this video. One feature I'm not a fan of, I don't know why, just it has mini Grovers on it, small Grover tuning keys. I don't think it looks right. You could say it's a weight saving thing. That could be a feature. Let's give Gibson credit for that. Maybe they're just trying to save some weight, which is cool. Weight-wise, it's coming in at 6.92 pounds, so obviously it's very light. Let's take a look. Let's first see if the neck is straight. The neck has some relief in it, just a light amount of relief in it. And the action came in at 1.5 millimeters on the low E, 1.5 on the A, 1.5 on the D, 1.25 on the G, 1.25 on the B, 1 millimeter on the high E. So action's nice and low. Let's see if it has any dead spots. Let's get a pick. I'll go ahead and just play them. Now you can use a fret rocker as well, but for a guitar like this, higher caliber guitar, we'll just play it. Nice. That's nice. Actually, really cool. The low E string may be a little buzzy. A little bit of buzz on that. No dead notes. But again, as low as that action is, that could be adjusted out a little bit. I don't see a reason to do that. Okay, let's talk about the nut. How did they cut the nut? We're gonna take our ring finger, put on the 3rd fret, push down on the 1st fret. There's absolutely no gap there. And that feels really good when we're going across all the strings. So real quick, I just want to let you know the nut is actually Graphtec, which is a good quality nut. And one of the things I want you to do to check a nut to make sure that it's cut correctly, especially on a Gibson where we know the D and the G strings are sometimes problematic for staying in tune. Take the string, tune it up, and then go about a half a step above, bring it down, half step above. Just do that a couple times, and what you're listening for is what I call the tink sound, like a pluck. It's going to sound like that. And that lets you know that it's bonding in the nut. This nut is cut really well. There's no issues, but even so, I want to take an extra second to make sure that we don't have any tuning issues. So the first thing I'll do is lubricate them. I use lubrkit by Addario, but you can use 3-in-1 oil, you can use chapstick, you can use Vaseline, you can use WD-40, you can use a pencil if you want. But this syringe will last you years. This comes in swabs, but I actually like it because it's super easy. I just go to the edge right here and push just a little bit into each slot. And I don't wipe off the excess until after I've tuned up and everything's good. This is going to make a huge difference in your tuning. If you're having an issue, definitely suggest cleaning and lubricating the nut on your guitar. If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing and liking the video. It really does help the channel immensely. Next thing we want to do is check to see how the fret ends are. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, we check the fret ends with a sock to see how they rounded over the frets. Let's go ahead and, wow, that's really nice. Now, there is no nibs or fret nibs on the end of this. This is not like a traditional Gibson Les Paul, or should I say a classic or a standard. No issues whatsoever. That's a 5 out of 5. The bridge actually feels pretty good too. Sometimes it's sharp right there on the corner, but no, they did a good job. There's no burr or anything weird there. That's again, a 5 out of 5. Thank you, Gibson. Can I just say right now, this inexpensive Gibson is already doing way better than 2 of the expensive Gibsons I've done on this channel. Yeah, that's, yeah. What I want to do now is just see how the frets feel. And they feel, what I do is I'm just bending them, pushing down and bending them, like doing vibrato, but listening. You can hear if a fret is scratchy. You'll hear literally feel the friction. There's no friction. So looking at the neck pickup, here it is. It's marked, it's a 490R. And then of course, no shielding in the cavity. And looking at the bridge pickup, we have a 498T. So there you go. Also made in 2003. So starting with the bridge, we're sitting at 13.8988K. And then we go to the neck right here, and we're sitting at 7.74. That is definitely what we would be familiar with the 490 series. To me, I always equate it to like the JB Jazz JB59 set. Just a hotter bridge pickup with a lower output neck pickup. Inductance. The inductance on the bridge is 6.59, and on the neck, 4.09. Looking at the back, the cavity is recessed, so is the control for the three-way switch, and you can see all that grain. Look at that. Looks really nice. Again, this looks like maybe it's metal. It's not, it's plastic. Let's go ahead and take that back plate off. Okay. Looking inside, oh, really nice. So typical Gibson, there is no shielding paint, no shielding tape in the cavity. We have 4 500K potentiometers. Here's your capacitor for your tone controls. Nothing out of sorts or strange. It's weird to not see a PC board in there. My guess is because their PC board drop-in stuff is made for a different thickness, and they probably don't expect to do so many of these guitars that they made a drop-in version for this. That's why I think this is hand-wired. I only point that out because if you spend more with Gibson, you're actually gonna get, instead of a hand-wired setup, you're gonna get a drop-in PC board, which is kind of a strange thing. I kind of almost think this is retro cooler. Let's look at that nut width real quick. The nut is 1.689 or 42.91 millimeters. Going to the 12th fret, we are at 52.70 millimeters or 2.075. Let's look at the thickness of the first fret, shall we? Thickness of the neck at the first fret is 0.854 or 21.71 millimeters. And on the thickness of the 12th fret, we're sitting in at 23.9 millimeters or 0.909. All right, let's check the frets. Looking at the fret width, we're coming in at 0.090 or 2.30 millimeters. And looking at the fret height, we're sitting in at 0.91 millimeters or 0.036. So based on those measurements and the feel when you play the guitar, these are definitely medium frets. So pretty standard there. I would say this is definitely the 60s carve for sure. If you're familiar with the Gibson 60s neck, this carve is for sure. We're gonna double check that. Not as flat. This neck is a little flatter than that profile. So if you're familiar with the 60s profile, it's gonna feel very similar. We have the tailpiece, which is aluminum or aluminium, super light. And then of course we have the bridge. Like I always say, none of this matters if it doesn't play or sound good, so let's go ahead and take it in the studio, play it, see how it sounds, and I'll tell you how I think it plays. First thing I want to point out is that I'm running it through a Synergy amp today. I'm running a 50-watt Synergy head with two modules, the Friedman BE, so that's what we're going to use our gain for, and the Fender Bassman module, and that's what we're running our clean. And I'm just running a little bit of reverb off my NuX pedal, and we're going to start with the neck pickup on the clean. Couple things to mention that are probably obvious is that this guitar is 24 3/4 scale length, and it has a 12-inch radius fretboard. Those are standard things. I didn't think we need to do the measurements on those since that's standard from Gibson. The couple things to note is that there is a belly carve. Even though this guitar is very thin, it kind of comes right up against underneath your arm and it feels really nice. Feel-wise, does not feel like a Gibson Les Paul. It feels more like a Gibson Les Paul Special. It has that kind of, not only because it's thinner, I mean, there's a little bit more of a carve here, although don't think of it like an arm carve because it kind of goes up a little bit like a normal Gibson, so it's not just smooth right here. I can't say that it feels better on my arm than the Les Paul Special, but the feeling the grain, just the overall vibe of the guitar, it's vibing like a Les Paul Special. If you're looking for a modern take on a Les Paul Special, I think that's what this is. So maybe that's where the modern came from. Go to the middle position. Yeah, those balance really well. Let's go to the bridge. So I love Les Pauls, but they always seem to get really bright and thin in the bridge position. This sounds great. Let's switch over to the BE side. And neck position. So let's go ahead and tame it down. I've switched back to the Bassman channel on the Synergy amp to the second channel, which is the gain channel. So this is an overdriven Fender Bassman. Here we go, start with a bridge pickup. Okay, let's go to the neck pickup. What do I think of this guitar? Well, first of all, yeah, if you want coil splitting, if you want a more modern feeling guitar, more importantly, if you just want a guitar full of beautiful aesthetics, I would definitely look at the Gibson Studio line at only $100 more if you want a Gibson. But keep in mind, you can buy really great guitars with these features for a lot less, other brands and imports. The real question is, if you bought this, do I believe this would feel like having a full-featured Gibson Les Paul? Absolutely not. Like I said, this feels definitely more like a Les Paul Special. This is in my opinion, for someone who wants a Les Paul Special, but maybe doesn't want that vintage look. They just want something a little bit more modernized. Maybe instead of P90s, they want these humbuckers. That's what I think this is. I'm really impressed with the way it feels. It just feels really good, although it definitely feels stripped down. It feels raw. I want to thank you guys for making it to the end because that supports the channel immensely as well. As always, thank you so much for your time. To the next time, know your gear.